Good evening, Warriors, and welcome to a special Monday night edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, stop looking at the game. Stop.
I'm not,
Stop
actually, I'm
looking at
not.
Monday Night Football.
I won't
What's
be
going on
looking up.
here?
Dude,
What's up?
listen, if you're not local, you don't know. It's cold right now.
It's cold.
I am freezing today.
We had talked last week about starting this around halftime. Hagan messaged me earlier today, so it's like about 6:30ish, and I'm like, yeah, sure, 6:30 is fine. It's not quite halftime, but the sooner we get this done, the sooner I can turn my heater on back behind me. Neither
Exactly.
of us have been visited by Avista yet. I shout out to them for all the work that they are doing to try to fix the gas leak that is going on in the area and get everyone back to heat. So I appreciate everything they're doing. We just were both at the very end of the scheduled times. Last I saw was Tuesday morning was the scheduled time, but they were like ahead of schedule in some places and not in others. So we're just kind of waiting. So we'll have the show. We'll have some fun. And then hopefully tomorrow will be nice and toasty when I have to go do the Lewis and girls basketball game.
I don't know. I was supposed to be this morning and still nothing in the area. I know our athletic director just got heat back at his place, but he is like 12 blocks west of me, so which tells me they ain't anywhere close to getting to my house. I don't think I will have it. Hopefully in the morning we will have heat. I think for me it's more not having hot water. It's the biggest thing. The heat hasn't been bad except for here this evening now that I've turned the little tiny heater off.
Yeah, luckily my hot water is electric, so I've been lucky enough to have hot water. Don't have the heat in the house, so we're making do. Everyone, I think, is making do, and get some good neighborly love out there in the community with a lot of people sharing their space heaters and all of that. So it's one of those things where there's been some things that you are happy to see that happen in these weird times, and then the complaining online just makes me laugh. There's so much of it. And it's like, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. I'm going to complain on Facebook. Oh, that's going to make things go by faster. No, it's not. That's not how the world works. Also, not how the world works. I just realized looking at our show notes, we still have a segment for Monday Night Football. It's going on. There's nothing to talk about this game. So that's bad game planning by both of us. We'll fix that next week. That's behind baseball for you guys. But just we'll have some fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun again. Monday Night Football. About 2-minute warning right now in the first half. Denver with a 9-8 lead as the NFL continues here in Week 10, where all of the games on the normal scheduled time on Sunday were fantastic. Everything that was standalone, utter garbage. Utter garbage. All of it. Every single minute of the Thursday night football, the German game, Sunday night football with my inept New York Jets offense, and now this Broncos Bills game. None of it has been good. None of it's been entertaining. But man, that 10 a.m. to 4:25 time here on the Pacific Coast, man, that was some good football.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. I didn't get to watch much of the Thursday game. I kept looking over at your computer as much as I could. I could look over there, but yeah, Sunday morning game, the Germany game. I was like, why did I wake up at 6 o'clock to watch this game? Quite
I'm
boring
glad I
whatsoever.
didn't.
This one tonight, it started off two turnovers by the Bills already, and I'm thinking, what is happening with this team? And could we see this team take another step back? And so maybe we just need to get to the jump ahead to week number 11 and have a what I think is probably one of the better Thursday night leadoff games. Yes, I'm going to be biased, but Cincinnati Baltimore should be a great matchup this Thursday.
Well, it's not even just that. I don't want to jump ahead because week 10 was good. Week 10 was really good. Just the primetime games suck. Next week, I'm worried because the primetime games are awesome. So is the normal slate on Sunday going to suck? Because you just talked about it. It's Ravens Bengals on Thursday night. It's Eagles and Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch on Monday Night Football next week. Both teams coming off a bye. That game is going to be great. So the regular slate is going to just be brutal, apparently. But well, before we get into all of that and we get into week 10, let's kind of run over the show. They've started to release some of the Major League Baseball awards. So we will hit on the first ones, which were Rookie of the Years, which were announced today. Also, we're going to start looking at the free agents in Major League Baseball to start to predict where we think that they are going to go. Because at some point, some of these names are going to start fitting into spots. I know for the most part, they don't really start going crazy until the winter meetings and all in December. But we'll get into that, get into some of the goofiness that's going on around college football as well. Sports related draft this week. Obviously, Veterans Weekend was just behind us. A lot of celebrating the veterans and thank you for your service to everyone there. But Robert, with our sports related draft this week, with the best athlete to serve in the armed forces, and he fell into his own trap. So I am going to go ahead and get the big victory there. We'll talk about that at the beginning of our second hour or whenever we get to it. There's no time schedule. Obviously, local events. Football is starting to wrap up. State championship games for Idaho are this week. Clarkson has moved on the Washington side. It was really the only local Washington team that was able to get through their first round. But we will talk about more of the second round of the Washington State tournament as well. Girls basketball is now underway in the state of Idaho. That's why we're doing these Monday shows for these first 2 weeks, because I will be over there at the Lewiston High School calling their games. LC was in action all over the place. We'll preview our power rankings. Is kind of the one issue about having a Monday show is we'll kind of preview what we're going to be talking about there. And of course, our predictions, which ignore my NFL picks. I am crushing you where it matters, high school and college.
Yeah, I've heard. I hate to say this, but I think I'm all done with my power rankings. Everything's done unless something disastrous happens with Buffalo in this game and they end up losing. Might tweak them a little bit, but I'm a little ahead of schedule, not knowing what things might bring. But yeah. Monday night game, not really time schedule, so let's just let this one flow.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and let's start off with that great slate of football that we saw yesterday. How about 5 games ending with a last-second game-winning field goal, Mr. Hagan? Your Baltimore Ravens were a victim of one of them. What the hell happened? You jumped out. They jumped out on Cleveland. They dominated them earlier this year, got the pick 6 right off the bat, basically led every second of the game, but they come away as losers.
Yeah, it was a great game first half, up pretty good, 17-9 at the end of first half, but you get down into that fourth quarter and quickly we go down and score. And, 6 plays later, the Browns were able to drive the ball all the way down the field, get back within 1 score. And then 2 plays later, ball gets tipped. I forget which guy it was for Cleveland, tipped the ball up, falls in Ozzie Newsome's hands, and he trots in for the quick interception. Missed the field goal, and you thought, okay, Baltimore can do this. Let's pound the ball, run it down, and 6 plays and you're out, and then give it right back to Cleveland. They march down the field, in just under 5 minutes to put up the end field goal. But hats off to that team. Myles Garrett is a disruptor on that defensive front. That it's big for them. And I can never say his name. The tight end for Cleveland got busy in the second half. Njoku got a lot of receptions in that second half, and he was just able to pound the ball. And it almost felt like it was the Greg Roman defense had showed its head back, and he played prevent defense that fourth quarter, which got a little frustrating. So McDonald, sir, you got to keep the pedal on the gas here and stay defensively with that team. That was my biggest takeaway from that.
Another really fun game, and it was one of my games to watch going into last weekend. Seattle got the win against Washington. Again, the Commanders are not a sexy team. Like they're not going to jump off the page at you, though. Sam Howell, I think, is really having a fantastic year. He's really enjoying the tutelage of Eric Bieniemy, but Washington is not one that's like this is a must watch team. But they stick in these games. They play really well. Seattle hung out there with them. I still wonder where the hell the running game went for the Seahawks. It's not as prominent as it was. I know a lot of people want to get on Geno Smith for some mistakes or some ineptitudes at times for the Seahawks offense, but it's really just one sided on the ball. Like Kenneth Walker has gone completely quiet. Charbonnet has been decent, but not great. I think with those two running backs, really need to pound the rock a lot more and focus on your defense. But again, comes away with a game-winning field goal. That one was a lot of fun to me. Houston, we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but what a fantastic win against the Cincinnati Bengals. They jumped out big, gave up the entire lead. Looked like it was like, well, that was fun while it lasted, but here comes Joe Burrow. But CJ Stroud is him. He is phenomenal and just insane to watch. Lions over the Chargers in what I felt was the game of the week, 41-38, even though it helped you solidify winning all three games we had different in the NFL. That one was a lot of fun. Defense was optional in that contest.
Lots of points. I didn't get to watch much of the replay other than what Scott Van Pelt told us there at the end of. But Detroit is proving that they can hang with it. Jared Goff making an appearance back in LA for the first time since getting traded, but don't take anything away from Gibbs. Gibbs is proving that he could be that rookie running back that's going to be the dominant guy up there in Detroit, and highly impressed with what he is doing. Doesn't break the century mark this week, but I think he was right at 77 yards in that game, and 2 touchdowns coming up huge for Detroit. And you're going to see it tomorrow. I moved Detroit up quite a little bit in the power rankings.
Yeah, those will all be posted tomorrow around noon is where I try to plan it. I try to get there a bit early, just kind of depends. I know I will not be able to get to them tonight as planned, as Kennedy Eddings, who is part of our Power Rankings crew, is currently watching her first NFL game live, watching her Buffalo Bills right now trail Denver 12-8 as I got about 45 seconds left in the first half. So she has already let me know that she will not be going home and writing these up. So I just asked her at least early enough in the morning so that I can, still keep on my schedule. So I won't be able to jump out as much as I would like to tonight, but I can't blame her there. One other game that was won on a last second field goal. And Robert Hagan, do you realize what you get to do this week?
I get to talk about Kyler Murray.
You talk about Kyler Murray in your power rankings every single week, and I delete it every single week. I'm gonna laugh if you don't talk about him this week. It'd be great. It would be hilarious to me.
I did talk very briefly about it, but I heard one guy say he put up MVP numbers. No, he didn't. He put in great numbers for being off of an ACL injury. Yeah, 250 yards, had a rushing touchdown. Is he going to fit in with this new style offense? It's going to be interesting to see, but he still looks a little timid in a few places, but to throw right at 250 yards, rushing touchdown, and to get that team going, I think is going to help. Is that team going to go anywhere? No. They're going to finish dead last, but it was nice to finally see him on the field. Almost, I did talk to almost a year from the day. It was week 12 last year when he got hurt. So, good to see him out there and come away with a win after tearing that ACL last year.
If he stays healthy the rest of the year, is he a lock for comeback player of the year?
Well, you'd have to look at. I'm trying to think of all the people that could qualify for comeback player of the year.
Again, I
this
don't
year.
understand the rules of this because Geno Smith didn't come back from anything and he won it last year. So I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't see.
Would Joshua Dobbs win comeback player of the this year?
What is that guy doing now? You know, he wins in Arizona, and now he's part of this 5-game win
He
streak.
didn't win in Arizona. He won the very first game of the year. That's it.
That's
all
the
they
first.
did.
Yeah, he's got these 2 wins now up there in Minnesota to keep going with their 5-game win streak, and and he's been given the game ball twice. So have they found the answer to Kirk Cousins' replacement?
No.
I don't know if this is
It's a cool
thing.
story. We need to calm down on Joshua Dobbs. He's not an elite quarterback. He's not it, but he's finding ways to win, and you got to give him credit there. I think it's Kyler Murray's award to lose at this point. I think his only competition is if somehow Aaron Rodgers hits his mark of coming back in December and he plays 3 or 4 games with the Jets and they win all of them, whether they're in the playoff hunt or not. I think that's the only other really option that you can go for. As far as the way I see comeback player of the year, again, you're going to have garbage people like Geno Smith who just sucked and then didn't suck as much. And so they were named comeback player of the year. So at that point, who knows? Anyways, who is your offensive player this week, sir?
Well, I'm going to dive in really quick. I found some current odds of who people would consider comeback player of the year. DeMar Hamlin is on that list. Tua is on the list. They do have Josh Dobbs, Breece Hall, Baker
Stop it
Mayfield.
with.
And I'm
You
just
didn't
reading
come back from anything.
I'm reading down the list of what this is from DraftKings. They say Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, TJ Watt, Chase Young, and Zach Wilson were the leaders for comeback of the year.
What the hell did Baker Mayfield come back from? And what does he come back to?
Yeah, so that's the question. Where do the odds come? I mean, who decides that that's his name should be on that list? That's where I want to know.
This award.
I
absolutely hate this award.
So
DeMar Hamlin makes sense, but he just never plays. Obviously, he's part of the practice squad and stuff. And it's just glad that we're all glad that he's healthy now, but obviously just not up there as far as making the active roster. But he still might end up just winning it anyways, just because of his story. But again, you got to come back from something. Like Breece Hall makes sense, but the Jets are falling apart. And all right, the Jets have scored 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games, and they were all from him. So I guess you can go that route, but I don't know. It's a complete mess. But who is your offensive player of the week, sir?
For me, I wanted to go a couple different ways. I was going to let you pick first on the offensive one. You didn't go that way, so you have to take him. Yes, it was against the New York Giants, but Dak Prescott.
Yeah, that's why I didn't take Dak.
Yeah, he put up some big numbers: 404, 26 completions, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He wasn't the one that there was one other guy. I'm going to let you get to your guy, but there was one other guy that really stood out, and we're going to talk about the game. But
well, you should have picked him because it wasn't Dak Prescott. You don't give the player of the week to Alabama when they're playing Chattanooga. It's like that's okay. They're playing a JV squad. That's what the Dallas did, and it was good for the Cowboys not to lay an egg against a really garbage team.
So
you don't give them an award for being great.
Listening to the pregame show on ESPN before the game talk, and they do their Hemi Awards, and I think it was Marcus that had picked Dak Prescott as his Hemi Award, and he said he almost didn't go that way, but he determined that the New York Giants are also an NFL team, so we're going to do it.
Are they an NFL team?
They're one of the 32 that are actively playing. We'll leave it at that. Well, trying to play.
They're trying to play. I'm starting to wonder if my Jets are even an NFL squad. At least offensively, it's not. My offensive player of the week goes to TJ Hawkinson, the tight end for Minnesota. He had a really good game with Joshua Dobbs, 11 receptions, 134 yards, and a touchdown from the first half of this Denver Buffalo game. I don't think either of us are in any kind of a danger of having to change our pick, as it's 15-8 at halftime, and nobody offensively is going great. Defensive player of the week, Zaire Franklin, the linebacker for Indianapolis for me. 15 tackles and a forced fumble over there in Germany to take care of New England. Who do you got?
I wanted to go Sheldon Rankins, but I decided no, I'm going Homer just because he had so many tackles. He was all over the field, was pressuring Deshaun Watson, who went and had an MRI today on his ankle. But I'm going to go Roquan Smith. He had 21 tackles. He has been such a big addition to this team since he came from Chicago last year. So not to talk more about what he's done for the whole team, but unbelievable 21 tackles this last game against a decent Cleveland team.
Hey, Hagen.
Yeah.
No, I said, are you ready?
Are you ready to be so distracted while you try to bowl on Thursday night? I don't even know where we bowl, if we're even next to each other. Running back over to my computer screen to watch the Cincinnati Bengals and your Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football exclusively on Amazon.
That's the thing. I don't have Amazon Prime, so I don't get to watch any of those games. But here's the thing. This next week is my off week, so I'll just camp out where you're at. I'm make sure I'm down there. Yeah,
I'm pre-bowling then. Make sure you camp.
Because I'm technically. I mean, it's still early. We've had some injuries on my bowling team.
People sneak it on Twitch. There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, any way that you're going to go against your team?
No. As much as I like where Joe Burrows has went, they just ran into a different team this last week against Houston. But I got to stay with Baltimore right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore as well. Home team on Thursday night is where I like to go with the Cincinnati off a tough loss against Houston. Another loss, and they could be in trouble about making the playoffs as tight as the AFC is right now. They're still last in the AFC North. So it's a big win or big game for the Bengals, but short week. Give me the home team, especially in a divisional matchup. All right, let's move on to Major League Baseball here real quick. Couple of awards were given out, and I think we both nailed this once we hit our end of the season stuff. But Gunnar Henderson, the third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. Just waiting to see if Denny just magically appears because I said the Orioles. Gunnar Henderson, the AL Rookie of the Year, batted .255 on the season, 28 home runs. Dude was awesome, and he is going to be a fantastic star for the Orioles for year to come. And then Corbin Carroll had this thing locked in like May on the National League side, batted .285 on the season, 25 home runs. 54 stolen bases on the season. Dude was carrying the Diamondbacks so hard he hurt his back 3 times.
Yeah. I think we had him. I think we had both of these guys at the midway point when we were talking about these right at All-Star break, that these guys were going to be leading in their division. I think the big one is Corbin Carroll. As much as you look, if you go on to MLB and sort stats of rookies and all that, these two were the top 3 in the top 3. There was one other guy, I want to say it was the rookie catcher for the Mets, that was in just because his batting average was a little bit higher than Gunnar Henderson's. But still, you didn't even talk about Corbin with 30 doubles. I mean, this guy can hit.
Cares.
Yeah, this guy can hit, and I'm excited to see it. And if he can continue to get on base and steal bases now with the whole rule changes, as we talked, then the stolen base numbers are up, and I think that's just going to keep climbing. this guy is going to be around in Arizona for a few more years if the Diamondbacks have anything to say about it.
Before we get into more NFL talk, let's look on the college side of things. We're getting to the very end.
Still no gas. Yes, no gas.
Still no gas here. No gas here. But actually, it's not even that bad here. I had the heater on for a bit, but no, it's all right. But I don't know. I just got comfortable and still a little jacket on. But yeah, no gas up here. No gas for Hagen either. I think we're both scheduled for the morning anyway, so we'll get into it. But college football, a lot of things are going on here late in the regular season. A lot of firings, Hagen.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Woke up the other morning and see Jimbo Fisher let go from Texas A&M. From all the articles I've read everywhere from Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Fox, they started meeting about this on Thursday last week. And even though they come away with a win over Mississippi State 51-10, he was let go Sunday morning. He still owed $76 million. And A&M plans on paying him all of it after signing that huge 10-year contract, $95 million back in 2021. It is crazy to think. And on that same spectrum, another coach out of the SEC gets let go, Zach Arnett, this morning. Arnett was the guy that replaced Mike Leach when he suddenly passed away last year. With Mississippi State, he went 4-6. Just not having the season that he is having. And so two coaches quick going in the middle of the season, and he's not the only one. Then you got a team that used to be really talked about a ton here in the Northwest, not as much this past couple years, but that's Boise State. Boise State letting go of Andy Avalos after a 22-14 record in the 2+ seasons. Now 5-5 on the season, and BSU on the brink of losing their first season since 1997. So some crazy things happening, coaching scale, still with about 3 weeks left of, 2 weeks left of regular season play.
To me, this starts feeling like there are some big names out there that could be available, and some of these teams just want to get a jump on it. Obviously, for Texas A&M, it's going to cost them a pretty penny to be able to do so. I'm sure Arnett is owed a bunch as well from his gig. Boise State, listen, they're not the team that they used to be. They're not at the level, and that's what I've tried to tell people about. Oh, well, Gonzaga is going to go to the Big Ten or the Big East or the Big whatever conference is going to take Gonzaga. Once Mark Few leaves, like, the Zags will be relevant for a few years, obviously, because now they kind of had this pedigree for 20 years, but they're not going to be the same team, and they're going to go through droughts, and they're going to go through issues, and the recruiting classes will go away. That's the same thing that happened with Boise State. They were relevant because they had a fantastic couple of year run. And then, the recruiting was great, especially up here in the Northwest where their competition is not high. I mean, the Pac-12 goes for the elite of the elite. And then the Boise State could take anyone else that they wanted before they would go to Utah State or Idaho State or Eastern Washington or any of those lower level teams. So Boise State was just filling up on 3 stars, right? That's not going to be the case forever. And they're going to fall back to where they are. Now, luckily for them, they are in the Mountain West where, it's not the top of the top. And maybe that gets thrown in with the Pac-12 with that, whatever changes that they're going to do. But the Broncos aren't what the Broncos used to be. And they have to kind of get used to that. To fire a coach who's 5-5, just came off a win this weekend, obviously is one of those things that something's going on behind the scenes. You have to feel, and they just kind of got rid of him because they're not going to go out and get a top named guy,
right? Then especially now with all the money that Texas A&M is going to have to fork out, who do they go after? I mean, that's the big thing with this is they're not going to have the money to do so. So, but I'm shocked it's a little bit early, dude. Is it the anticipation? That's what leads me a little bit. The anticipation to everything getting restructured this next year. that is throwing some of these coaches into different spots. I think
Mhm.
that has a lot to do with it, and we'll lead into it that because college football, the playoffs hired a new director that is transporting in from Air Force. Richard Clark will stay with Air Force through 2024 as Bill Hancock, who has run it for the last so many years. The playoffs is on his way out in 2025. But next year is the big changes. Everything gets restructured. We go to a
Right.
12 team. I'm starting to wonder if some of these coaches are feeling the vibes of what's happening and they want to get into a new spot, new team. Is that the case with Jimbo Fisher? Was he starting to get places of interest for him to go?
No, to
It's
me, Jimbo
interesting.
Fisher, the interest in Jimbo Fisher is gone. As far as the top tier teams, like Texas A&M is probably the best place he's going to get, unless he turned the Aggies into a perennial powerhouse and then wanted to move on to another team. But it more just seems like it's the teams right now going, okay, we're going to expand soon. The SEC is going to take all these teams. The Big Ten's expanding. All these great, like the NCAA is a mess, and it will be a mess
Mhm.
for a decade, if not more. They've got a lot to figure out, and I think there are some of these teams, like especially Mississippi State, which is already kind of a bottom tier of the SEC, that has to wonder is like, if we continue to be the bottom tier of this conference, do we get booted for somebody else? Like, I wonder if some of these schools are seeing what the Pac-12 team, or excuse me, the Pac-12 teams did to Washington State and Oregon State, and went,
Mhm.
well, these two are obviously holding us down, so we need to get away from them, and the Pac-12 could not like ship them to any other conferences. So if a super conference, like our buddy Eric Watkins likes to bring up, these super conference ideas ever come to fruition, the way it's standing, Mississippi State may be left out in the dust
Mhm.
and trying to figure out then where they have to go. Again, the landscape continues to change, and it's just a wild time, I think, for college football, and we're going to see more teams like this make big moves and eat money and try to put their footing in a better spot, I guess. But it's a mess.
Yeah,
It's an
it's going to be
absolute mess.
and it's going to be a mess until this reseeding and everything gets handled. So, with that being said, last week we know rankings come out on Tuesday, so we're a day ahead, so we won't have the
Mhm.
update. So let me throw out what the top 5 was and what they did this week. Ohio State defeated Michigan State 38-3. Georgia, who was ranked number 2, defeated Ole Miss 52-17. Michigan handled Penn State. That was an interesting game to watch live. Knocked off Penn State 24-15. Florida State defeated Miami 27-20. And Washington defeated Utah 35-28. With that being said, rankings come out at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. Do we see a change in the top 5?
No, not this week.
Not this week. So with that
No.
being said, we look at the other teams that are the 6 through 10. You've got Oregon, who won last week. Texas won last week. Alabama won last week. And then Ole Miss and Penn State both lose. We could easily see those two drop out. Which of those 3, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, has the best chance of getting in the top 4?
Alabama. It's always Alabama. It's always SEC that has the best chance to sneak in, and one of them possibly could. I mean, you still have Ohio State and Michigan to come.
Yeah.
Doesn't Georgia has a really big, is it Georgia Alabama that I'm thinking of in like 2 weeks? Because
Um,
right now I know Alabama's playing a complete cupcake. So I think they're setting up for a big game. I'm just blanking on who. It has to be maybe Auburn, and that's not as big, but I'll have to go back and actually look at their schedule and see where they're. Yeah, they play Auburn and then Georgia, December
oh, yeah.
2nd.
Yep. I
So
just
that's
pulled it
another
up.
big. If Alabama beats Georgia in it's 3 weeks from today, I mean, they're going to get in. So I really think it's the Crimson Tide. By the way, breaking news: Haley has just come home and she says that Avista is on our street. So
Well,
Hopefully.
I keep moving my headphone where I could hear the doorbell just in case. I know ours are fair enough away, but I don't think ours is going to get here.
We'll see. We'll see how it all goes, and we'll see how college football kind of wraps up over the last couple of weeks. Idaho took a really rough loss against Weber State last week. Obviously, with the FCS, if you're one of the top teams, you're still going to get into the playoffs. And I think the Vandals are locked into a playoff spot, but that definitely hurt them. There's a big Sky game that we'll talk about later on in the show. But let's now shift back over to the NFL. And speaking of playoffs, could the Houston Texans actually make the AFC playoffs this year?
Man, you look at this team and what they have done just the last couple of games, and maybe it's seeing the growth of Stroud, also DeMarco Ryans, what he's doing, rookie coach and a rookie quarterback, and making things interesting in that AFC Central. It's interesting.
South.
Or South.
You are so old that you brought up the AFC Central, which hasn't been a thing in over 20 years.
Yeah, I think you're right. It has been.
Stop showing your age, sir.
Listen, everybody was picking on me about my age on Saturday during the bowling tournament.
It's fair. It's because it's an easy thing to do.
But with that being said, 2 wins in a row. They're 1 game back of Jacksonville, who got totally blown out of the the other day. You look at their schedule.
Here, hold on before you get there, because I have to get to this real quick. Okay. ESPN, I'm watching Monday Night Football to my side, and it just went away, so I won't get the actual year right. But it's 15-8, right? Between the Broncos and the Bills. They just brought up a stat that is the second time ever in NFL history that was the score at a halftime. The other time was like 1961 or whatever the year was. It was also the Broncos and the Bills.
Yep. Broncos, Bills ended up finishing 22-10. I just went back and
there you go. What year was it?
1961. You were right.
Look at me. I'll take it. But anyways, go back to Houston.
Yeah, but looking to see how they play. I mean, you look at this week, they take on the Cardinals. That should be an easy win. They see Jacksonville this next week.
That could be to take the division lead, because the Texans have beat Jacksonville already.
Right. And so then you look, they've got the Broncos the first week of December, your Jets on the 10th.
So Titans, it is December. It is December. Is that Aaron Rodgers' time? Is that when Aaron Rodgers comes back?
You never know. And then to wrap out the season, they've got the Browns, the Titans, the Colts. There's still a very good chance of them taking and winning. Are you getting a knock on the door?
No, I was just trying. I'm hearing something. I don't know if they just turned it on.
I just got a text from our buddy who has shared on the show before, Brian Brimley. He actually has a Vista at his house currently.
There you go.
Hopefully, but he lives over by over the other side of the heights. But listen, if the Texans can get the run game again, that was the other guy I was going to go with my offensive player of the week. Devin Singletary had a game, 30 carries, 150 yards, a touchdown, and along with what Stroud did, the possibility is there.
And just think about it. You go back and look at what they have done this year. Obviously, they struggled at the beginning of the year. You lose to your Ravens, lose to the Colts. But since then, it was there are only 2 losses. Were a 2-point loss to Atlanta, where Stroud gave them the lead late, and then Atlanta got into field goal position. I want to say Koo hit a 50-some-yard field goal. And then they lost a close game with Carolina. 2 games that they probably could have and should have won. That really hurts them record-wise, but they're still 5-4. They could easily be 7-2, and I know we could say that about a lot of teams. But I really think Houston is one of the better teams right now in the AFC, and they would make the playoffs just ahead of Cincinnati and Buffalo as they stand. Obviously, if the Bills make the comeback against the Broncos, they will jump up into that last playoff spot. But the Texans, as they stand right now, would make the playoffs. And I really think when you look at that schedule, there's not too many losses that you would pin in right now. They're obviously, I don't think they're going to run the table, but Houston is that interesting team that could make a really good team like the Bengals or the Bills miss the postseason, or the Chargers right now, who are now 4-5. But there's going to be one or two really good teams that are not going to make the playoffs in the AFC, and it could come down to because Houston stole one from them.
Yep. And with that being said, the spoiler, I moved Houston up 3 spots this week, and they're in the top half of my
That's it.
Yep, I moved them up
Only
3
the
spots.
top half.
In the top half.
You had them 18th.
Yep. So I moved them up to 15 is where I have them.
You didn't move them up high enough. Top 10 here. Though, pending Buffalo, pending what happens with, because I don't put on Monday night, I don't have those 2 teams in my rankings. I just have a ranking of 30, and then I slot those 2 teams in. But at the moment, I have them 10.
Currently, I have Buffalo sitting 14th, but like I said, that could easily change here. So I could make some big shift in here in a minute. We'll see.
Hold on, I got to see if I can.
Are you loading into my stuff already?
No, I don't even look at your stuff.
Okay.
Haley just sent me.
Arby's, we have the meats.
But without meats, it's heat. We have the heat. Our heat is turned on. So there you
Woohoo!
go.
Congrats. I know Denise is still sitting out in the living room by the other small heater. So hopefully maybe she saw the heat guy, but it might be wait another day.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Another game I really want to focus on while we are looking at the NFL. San Francisco 49ers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We had talked about how the AFC had just dominated the NFC most of this year. Baltimore was part of the reason why, where they just steamrolled the Lions and the Seahawks this year. But San Francisco went, you know what? We've lost 3 in a row, but we're going to take a week off, reset, and come back and destroy that darling team of Jacksonville. 34-3, and it didn't even feel like it was that close.
Yeah, and what's crazy is to look at what their schedule is going to be. But, everybody was downplaying Purdy with what he had done. He has a great game, comes back. First time McCaffrey doesn't get a touchdown in a long while. Trent Williams is back, which will help that offense. It's so much there. Look for this team to really, I think, take a roll. They've got Tampa this week, and then they go Seattle, Eagles, Seattle. Their next 4 next 3 after Tampa Bay is going to be interesting. But can you imagine Baker Mayfield coming over to into San Francisco and kind of shaking things up? If he can have a game like he did with Mike Evans this last week.
Are you trying to say that you think Tampa Bay is going to pull off the upset?
There could easily be an upset there. The way those two played, I wouldn't put it past them yet.
I'm going to pin you in. You have to take the Buccaneers in that game. But they played the Tennessee Titans, and they scored 20 points.
I'm looking here.
Calm down.
Calm down. Let's look.
Tennessee has yet to win a game on the road. They stink.
So we're still 6 days out. Early morning odds right now. 49ers are favored by 11. So,
Yeah, but you're locked in. You're taking Tampa Bay. You have to. And that's one game that I really need desperately to catch up with you. By the way, San Francisco's back in my top 5 for power rankings. We'll talk about that later. All right, before we get into our sports-related draft, let's get into some Major League Baseball free agency. This used to be your favorite time of the year, because the Mariners would never be chasing a playoff spot, so you'd want to see who was going to join the team. But now you're right in that cusp. You missed it just a little bit. Yankees are in that same boat. So we're just going to go through 10 names here. We may do 10 more next week. We'll see how things go on Monday the following week. But
Are you going to start
ready?
at the bottom of our list, or are you going to start at the top of our list?
We're starting at the very top.
Okay.
We're going to go batters first, and I add this man under batters only for the fact that he will not pitch next year after having Tommy John surgery, but he still will be a designated hitter. Very curious how ridiculous this contract is going to be, but Shohei Ohtani, the 29-year-old phenom, obviously was with the Angels. I've been saying it for a while. I'm going with the upset pick. Give him to your Seattle Mariners.
Jerry Dipoto has been very vocal over the last few weeks talking about it. Let's do it. Let's give him the money. Let's give him an 8-year contract. Pay him what he wants.
Honestly, I would give Ohtani right now a 3-year, $170 million contract. Overpay him now, see how he does. And then if he heals up and he can stay healthy, then he can get that long-term contract. But I would overpay for that short-term time to try to make it worth his while. But yeah, we both say Seattle there. How about Cody Bellinger, who kind of had that resurgence with the Chicago Cubs after really struggling with the Dodgers? First baseman, outfielder. He's still under 30 years old. Where does he go?
This was an interesting one. Like, they were trying to move off of him. Chicago got hot there at the trade deadline. I think the perfect place would be for him is Oracle Park. Send him to San Francisco. I think he would be a great fit in that ballpark and help that team get the wins. I really do. I think San Francisco finished, I want to say 4th, but they needed another bat, and I think he could be that fit there.
Why would a left-hander ever go to a place that has a deep right center? The perfect place for Cody Bellinger is the short porch at Yankee Stadium. I've said this for so long. The Yankees front office, they can act like they know better than us, and they probably do. But the fact that they don't always go out there and sign the hot left-handed bat to play in a lineup where you play 81 games where right field is a hop, skip, and a jump away blows my mind. There's a reason Aaron Judge hits so many home runs to the opposite field. It's because it's easy to hit home runs to right field at Yankee Stadium. People call it a minor league park because of it, or a little league park. But you don't go out and get these left-handed bats. He is perfect for Yankee Stadium, and he needs to be a Yankee.
I think the only reason I don't put him there, I think they will overspend on somebody else. We'll get to him in a little bit.
The Yankees should go back to being the Yankees and stop caring about overspending. Everyone continues to say that the Yankees try to buy championships, even though they've won one championship in over 20 years now. Be that team that everyone says you are, which they have not been in a long ass time. How about Matt Chapman, third baseman for the Blue Jays? Where do you put him?
I think he could be one that they lose, and so that would be a great place. Put him at Wrigley. I think them losing Bellinger, I think that could be a good fit for Chapman, whether or not they bounce him over and move him to first base, maybe hit him a little bit more, give him one extra day off a week. I think it'd be impressive for him to wear that Cubby uniform.
I've seen a lot of people say the Yankees, again, for Chapman, trying to fill that hole that Josh Donaldson voided out for the last couple of years. But I honestly think he stays with Toronto. It's worked out pretty well there. They still have a very young core offensively. So I think he can be that first that really gets a good contract there and then get everyone else there. And they were a disappointment this last season, but I think Chapman stays with the Blue Jays. Real quick, how about Jorge Soler, 32-year-old outfielder? He was with the Marlins, and this just seems like that perfect person that ends up in Houston that just continues to make them better.
Yeah, for me, I think the spot is going to be Toronto. I think him getting out and being able to be a starter up there in Toronto is a spot. You look at that outfield, I think they could bolster just a little bit from his bat.
How about JD Martinez? I know he's 36 years old, but he always seems to come up somewhere.
I really contemplated this one for a long, long time. I almost put retired. I really did. I seriously thought about putting him in as retired, but I thought, okay, why wouldn't he like to finish out his career? Put him in a big market, some play where he can DH, and that's what's the Mets. I think the Mets could use him for a 1 or 2 year deal.
Are you talking about possibly retiring at the age of 36? He was a Dodger. He's not going to go back and play with them. So why not have to move and just go play for the Angels?
Walk across
That's where I have
the
him.
yeah.
All right, let's go to the pitching side. How about Lucas Giolito, 29-year-old right-hander, was traded to the Guardians at the trade deadline. Where does he go?
The Cubbies were so close to getting in and making a good run, and I think they were one arm away. So some relief. I think he would be great. He's still young, like you said, 29. Got a few years. I could see a 3 or 4 year deal with him there in Chicago.
I honestly don't hate that, as I really think that the Cubs are all in with what they did with their manager, which we talked about last week with firing David Ross and bringing in counsel from Milwaukee. So maybe they feel like they are ready to go, and getting a big arm like Giolito would be really good. However, while I almost went Tampa Bay because they always take that pitcher that struggles for a bit and resurface him and make him a star, I don't think Giolito fell off that far. Another team that does really good with this kind of stuff. How about the Baltimore Orioles? Give that to Denny Grubb and make that team just even better than they already are. Aaron Nola is 30 years old. He's been with the Phillies his whole career. You and I both think he will stay with Philadelphia. Blake Snell was big for the San Diego Padres. Left-handed pitcher. He's 31 years old. It looks like San Diego is going to be moving off of some pieces. We'll see if they trade Juan Soto. So both of us think that he is leaving. I'm going to say he stays in the NL West, though. Dodgers always go after these big name pitchers, and I think they take Snell.
Yeah, I that's a fair thing. I think he moves over to the AL East in your area. You look at the Boston Red Sox. You've got 2 guys that really, for me, maybe 3 guys that really stand out in that rotation. I think he could be the 3rd guy and bump Pivetta down to 4, and he could be in the top. You got Chris Sale, you got Pivetta, you got Bello. I think he'd look really good in that starting rotation.
I'd hate it. I'd absolutely hate it. Former Yankee, former Cardinal, current Ranger, Jordan Montgomery was part of that World Series team. 31 years old, left-hander. I say he stays with Texas because he says if he's going to re-sign with a former team, it's going to be them.
I think that a good chance for him. He's still somewhat young, 31. Send him to Baltimore. Baltimore could use one extra reliever in that great team they had this year. But then you look at who would be the odd man out of that bullpen. You've got Webb, you got Perez. It's still a very good bullpen with Cano there. You've got I'm drawing a blank.
Why are you putting him in the bullpen?
Well, he's getting to that age. I mean,
he's 31 years old.
I think he could be a great one. I do. I think it's
he's
time.
He's going to be a great starting pitcher. Did you not see what he did in October?
I don't have the stats up.
He was fantastic. That's all you need to know. You don't need exact numbers. Stop trying to drop him into the bullpen already.
Well,
that's horrible. That's a bad take by you. We'll get to more bad takes when we get to the sports-related drafts in a minute. All right, and then finally, how about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the 25-year-old right-handed phenom out of Japan, played for the Oryx Buffaloes. He has to be a New York Yankee. I need a new Tanaka. I miss Masahiro Tanaka. He was one of my favorite pitchers for a decade. I'm ready to be a big Yamamoto guy. Let's go. Bring him to the pinstripes.
I think you're exactly right. That's why I said it earlier. I think your Yankees fork a lot of their money that they have in free agency into this pitcher, and I think that's where he ends up going is there with your Yankees. Be a pinstriper like most of those people come across from the other side. But he has been impressive from what I've seen tapes of him throwing. Unbelievable pitching style and what he can do with that ball, making it dance around. Ugh, it's going to look sick.
He needs to be a Yankee so bad. All right, before we get into the sports-related draft, let me just remind you, you are watching the R&R Sports Report right here on our Facebook and or YouTube pages. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Well, maybe. I don't know if we're going to be back at the studio because we're going to get into the Christmas break really soon. But we'll try to get back to the studio after the Thanksgiving break. Obviously, I have a couple of Lewiston games that I have to do play-by-play for over these next 2 Tuesdays. So we are doing Monday night shows here for this week and next week. However, I'm already making this call, Hagen. You can't take it away from me. Next Monday will be after Monday Night Football. I didn't really care about this Bills-Broncos game. Chiefs-Eagles, I really want to watch that game.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. Over under how many times they show Taylor Swift in the press box during that one?
Is she even there? That'd be the big question. If she's there, she's on tour, I think.
Yeah, that's where Kelsey was at this week in Argentina watching her.
Yeah, see, there you go. All right, time for your sports-related draft. First off, let me know if you're watching live and you want to vote on this week's draft. And tell us who your favorite is. And if you say Hagen, then you are vetoed from the draft. That's just the rule. You did win last week, so congratulations to you. But it is your turn to pick a topic.
So, with Veterans Day this past week, I went and we want to shout out to all of our veterans. Thank you for your service and, our freedoms to do what we do come at a price. And so it is very important for me coming from that household. So, I thought about it and it saw a lot of different things. And I thought, let's just tie it in here and see and pick the best athlete to serve in the armed forces. Now, I told you last night, there were so many names on the list that I had not a clue that actually served I didn't know Nolan Ryan was in the talk of that. There were so many athletes that, especially like you had brought up in the time well before both you and I were even in existence.
Well, at least me. At least me.
At least you. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, you were naming off all of these names, and then you went with who you went with your first pick.
I told you I was going that way. I told you that last night.
For shame, sir.
No, I don't.
You fell into the perfect trap. It's just, go ahead. But it was your topic, so I get the very first pick, and it was an absolute zero-brainer. You told me this topic on Sunday. I instantly had my first pick without looking anything up. Ted Williams, one of the best baseball players of all time. He had 2 different tours. I was in the Navy for 3 years and then got recalled in 1952 for the Korean War. It seems from reading reports that he was not the biggest fan of going and did his best to not go. However, that's not the topic. It's not who is the greatest military person who is also an athlete. It's who is the best athlete who then served for the armed forces. So while he did his best not to go, he ended up going. 19-time All-Star. This is still what blows my mind about Ted Williams. He won the AL MVP twice. He also was a 2-time Triple Crown winner. The 2 years he won the Triple Crown, he did not win the AL MVP. He would be a shoo-in to win the AL MVP if he won the Triple Crown these days. So, one of the best baseball players of all time, and he served in the military. Easy top pick for best athlete to serve in the armed forces. I win. Move on. Good day, sir.
Listen, I did more of this for recognition, yes, but I have a lot more feelings on my first pick than you do, and you kind of let me know it last night.
Yeah.
But listen, this guy is most notable for giving up his contract. Yeah, he played 4 years and then decided that he was joining the service, and
Yes, like so many of these other people.
Let me finish my. I'll let you have your rebuttal.
Yeah,
but listen,
go for it.
I've taken Pat Tillman, a man that took, and yes, he was in college, played 4 years for Arizona, and then when everything went down with 9/11, he decided it was time to serve his country and to give up his contract. And at that time was not a big contract. He was still very young in all of that. Joined.
He wasn't that great.
Well, I'll get. So he became a Ranger, and then was killed in action. Unfortunately, the stories come out bad that at first he was killed by enemy fire, and we learned weeks after that it was friendly fire that ended up taking him. But still, he did have what I thought was a promising career. In the 4 years he did play, he played 60 games, had almost 400 tackles, 3 interceptions, not huge numbers for a defensive back, but only 4 short years in the NFL. And for a guy that just gives up in a now society of some of these football players, it's all about the money. Give me the money, show me the money. He didn't want the money. He was going to go stand for his country. And for me, that's why he ranks as high as he does on my list.
Again, if this was outstanding human beings who played in professional sports and served in the military, Pat Tillman would be number 1 on this list. But that was not what the sports-related draft is. It was the best athletes who served in the military. Pat Tillman was a decent NFL player. Pat Tillman would have, if things did not go the way that they went, would have served his military time, possibly came back in the NFL, would have got the big rounding ovation, and have been a decent NFL player. He was never top tier. He was never great. He's mostly remembered because of the horrific things that happened while he was overseas, and it sucks that it was friendly fire and all of the conspiracy theories and all that stuff that goes on with it. I'm not saying that Pat Tillman's a bad human being. I'm not saying that Pat Tillman does not deserve all of the recognition for being a stand-up human being, especially in today's age where most people are not. And like, I did not serve, but partially because the military didn't want my because back then I was 40 pounds underweight and they didn't want to deal with me. But so again, I stand up and I salute Pat Tillman. But for this sports-related draft, the man doesn't deserve to be anywhere near this list. I'm sorry. He just does not.
Like I said, he only played 4 years, and I think that is his biggest downfall. And but
did he make 4 Pro Bowls? Did he make a Pro Bowl? No? None of that? Okay. Just checking. Joe DiMaggio is my next pick. Again, just the difference in athlete here. Joe DiMaggio, 13-time All-Star, 9-time World Series champion, 3-time AL MVP. And of course, he has a 56-game hitting streak to his mark. He was in the Air Force from 1943 to 1945. Dude was an amazing Yankee. Easily second on the list.
I'm going to take the man that broke the color barrier. I'm going to take Jackie Robinson. He served for 3 years for the U.S. Army. He was a second lieutenant in World War II, and then come back and breaks the color barrier. He ends up playing his entire 10-year career. Well, he played 11 years. We'll talk about the one. The one was in the Negro League, but 10 years for Brooklyn. Comes away with the Hall of Fame. He was a MVP, Rookie of the Year, 7-time All-Star, champion in 1955. Also won the batting title in 49, 141 home runs. But the dude could steal bases, 200 stolen bases in 10 years.
Yeah, that one I totally am with, totally understand. Obviously, you can go back with character, top tier character person as well, and his story is fantastic. And he was a great player, so I get it for this draft. My 3rd round pick, got to go Ty Cobb. One of those names that, I mean, I know you got to watch him live, and it was really cool to be able to watch such a great hitter back in the 1910s, but about 70 years before my time. But he revolutionized baseball. And it sounds like when you hear stories, he wasn't the nicest human being, but 12-time AL batting champion. How about 366 career batting average, which still is, it will never be topped for the history of everything. Over 4,000 hits. He does only serve for 70 days because he has an accidental exposure with mustard gas, but that is not the topic. He served, so he counts, and he's my 3rd round pick.
The next one, for my 3rd round pick, I'm surprised he dropped as far as he did, but give me the Say Hey Kid.
He only dropped this part because you put Pat Tillman.
Yeah. Say Hey Kid. He ends up winning Rookie of the Year in 1951, and then was drafted in 52, where he went and was a private in the U.S. Army for Korea. Found out with reading a bunch of this today and all that he also even played baseball for the U.S. Army during this time that he was in Korea. They actually had a baseball team where he played and was doing stuff during that time, but he missed 250 games for MLB, comes back in 1954, bats .345, wins the MVP, wins the batting title in 54, comes in, ends up being an all-time Hall of Famer, Rookie of the Year, World Series champion, 2-time MVP, 12 Gold Gloves. Kid was unbelievable, 660 home runs. Huge accomplishment.
There you go. That's our sports-related draft. Again, it's the best athlete to serve in the armed forces. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Ty Cobb for me, Pat Tillman, Jackie Robinson, and Willie Mays for Hagen. Robert, can we just play a quick game?
I want to throw out some other names that were on the
That's
list
the game I want to play.
Okay. Because there's a bunch of names that I would have thrown out there too. So
here's the game I want to play. Let's tell me who is the better professional athlete. Pat Tillman or Nolan Ryan?
Why are you doing this?
Because you just make no sense with your pick. And I know somebody's going to come on later and hear our draft, and they're going to pick you because they're going to go with the sentimental pick for Pat Tillman, and I'm already angry about it. You didn't answer the question.
Your picks are your picks. I think Nolan had a better career, but I think the emotional side of it. But some of the other names, though, crazy that we didn't even look at.
Yogi Berra, David Robinson, Roger Staubach. So many.
Yeah, and like
you went with Pat Tillman.
And you and I talked last night. So many of them were ones from that era of 40 to 60 that we never got to watch play whatsoever. So,
you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Willy Wonka. You're pulling out Willy Wonka.
You pulled out
Willy Wonka. Come on.
All right, fine.
Yeah!
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
Anyway, let's move on. If anybody's watching and wants to pick on our sports-related draft, let us know in the comments below. We'll catch it up later on in this episode. But real quick, let's get into some local events. And I didn't put it on here because we'll kind of mention what they do this week. But I got to ask you, since I was unable to be there, I was doing LCSC basketball. Clarkson with the big win this last week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Watch this team go against a conference winning or league conference winning team in Woodland. They shut down Elijah Anderson as well as they could, as he was their main guy out of the running back. They put him in Wildcat. They even put him out as a receiver, and Clarkson was able to just shut him down between Reichenkraber and Emmett Slag. The defense just stepped up all day long. 2 big pick sixes in this game. One by the big man, Sage Lone Bear. He was able to pick one off and take it back for a touchdown. But it was an overall great team win. Got to clean a few things up. Some silly, stupid penalties. They've got to keep them in check, especially going over to Tumwater and playing against the number 1 2A team who has been dominant for years. Clarkson's got their hands cut really, really tight for this game, but it is a possibility they can make it close.
Yeah, we will talk about that here later on in the show when we make our predictions. Again, Idaho girls basketball is underway. Lapway with the new head coach went 1-1 down in Southern Idaho, as did Lewiston, who has a new head coach, and Julie Fisher. I'll get to go watch this team live tomorrow. I have play-by-play for you on the River 105.1.
What happened with? Did I miss something?
What?
New coaching change. I didn't hear
New
about
coaching change, drama. Parents are stupid. And I've also heard some personal stuff that I don't. If Carly announces it, I'll let Carly announce it. But I've heard things from Kevin Driscoll, which is good news. But Carly has stepped away from the basketball team. But new head coach Julie Fisher has taken over. They defeated Mountain View, 55-45. Addie McArcher led the way, 19 points in that game. Reese DeGroot had 13 points, and Bay Delich had 10. Those really are going to be your main scorers, I think, for this team. They were a lot of the scoring along with Zoe last year. We'll see what they're able to do here. They do lose to Centennial, where the offense really struggles. They lose 43-35. They were just down by 1 point going into the fourth quarter, so they kept it competitive. Reese DeGroot led the way with 14 points in that contest. Again, Lewiston will host Lakeland tomorrow at 7 p.m. over there at LHS. And then next week, I believe it's Lake City is who the Bengals will host. And that's why we have these back-to-back Monday night shows. Couple of LC news for you. Cross country will have their national championships on Friday. My preview should be out on lcwarriors.com on Thursday. I need to email the coach tomorrow, get some quotes from him. LC volleyball, unfortunately, did see their season come to an end. They were playing as our show is going on Tuesday. They do lose in 4 sets to Northwest. And so their season comes to an end at 10-18. There's a lot of fantastic underclassmen on that team. So I'm excited to see where they go in the future. And then the big weekend of basketball happened over there at the P1FCU Activity Center. I was there for all 6 games. It was a lot of fun. I got to call the 3 non-LC games, and I got 2 overtime games and a game that was ended with a basket with under 5 seconds to go. So I had a lot of fun. We had some really close games over there. LC took care of business on the women's side. The men going up against a really good Arizona Christian team came away with a loss. But looking at that, the men earlier in that week defeated Northwest Indian College 104-64. Lorenzo Marsh led the way with 17 points. And again, Arizona Christian came into town, took care of Eastern Oregon in overtime, which was a surprising result. Then they really took it to the Warriors in that first half, led by as much as 21 points. LC came back, cut the lead to 11, lost 81-70. Quentin Rayner was fantastic in this one, 24 points for him. They will play in the Montana Tech Fall Classic, where they'll take on Providence on Thursday, and then number 6 Montana Tech on Friday. Both games are on the road for the women. Really fun time watching them play. They have ridiculous depth for this squad as well. Montana Western went down 78-63. Callie Stevens ended up with 27 points. A lot of that in the fourth quarter when they put that game away. Peyton Hymas with 15. Lindsey Wilson, who's now the starting center role, had a really good game with 14 points, and Maddie Holm with 14 rebounds. I'll just say this right now. We may not talk about Montana Western the rest of the year. That team could be phenomenal if they could rebound. They could not rebound.
Yeah,
They took on Eastern Oregon on Saturday, lost that game in overtime because they gave up 60 rebounds. 25 of them were offensive rebounds for Eastern Oregon. They had one girl that had 11 offensive rebounds and 10 defensive rebounds in that game.
Jeez, that's crazy.
So Montana would be pretty decent, but they got to rebound the ball better. And then LC took care of Montana Tech 65-15. It wasn't even that close. LC scored 3 points in the fourth quarter, but Alexander led the way, 16 points. Peyton Hymas with 11, and Maddie Holm finished with 10. The Warrior women are off until November 24th, but then they got 2 big ones as they'll take on number 5 Carroll and number 18 Providence on back-to-back days, both over there in Montana. So big ones for the Warriors coming up.
Now, things aren't starting easy. They're going right at it. So I'm excited to get over and try to watch a few games this year. Haven't got asked to work yet, but I know that'll happen as Rocky has days off. But yeah, excited to watch this women's team and this men's team with as much talent as both ball clubs have.
All right, let's get into a bit of a preview of our power rankings. Get into the fourth quarter now for the Bills and Broncos. They're tied at 15 at the moment, but just kind of look at what we have so far. And I'm just going to ask you real quick, what were a couple of the games that happened this week that really impacted your power rankings?
Well, you look at where I went with a couple of them. Detroit moves up, not a huge amount, but they move up into my top 3. That back and forth game with the Chargers, Goff, Gibb, what those teams could do. And the other one, and I'm got to pull up my file here and we'll look at it. The other one that I have moving up 5 spots is Minnesota. 5-game win streak. Yes, Josh Dobbs is added to that. They're going to be getting Justin Jefferson back and playing a lot more. I do move them up into my top 10. And I think the one team for me that is almost sealed themselves in the bottom, I've had them in the bottom, like the bottom 5, and I keep fluctuating with them. I finally put the Giants at the bottom. I think I'm done moving them around.
Yeah, Giants and Patriots to me are battling it out for that last spot. Again, I just have a ranking of 30 as I wait for this game to end, and then I will piece them in at where needed. But obviously the Broncos keeping up with the Bills here are not going to drop to the bottom, and there's no way the Bills are moving up in my rankings, even if they come away with a win. But as far as the question I asked, what games really changed my rankings? Obviously the 49ers steamrolling Jacksonville has got the 49ers back up into my top 5 and knocked Jacksonville out of my top 10. I think I had Jacksonville in my top 5 last week. But I moved them outside of the top 10 after they had a really poor showing. I moved Dallas up a little bit as they steamrolled the Giants, but like we said, that's a minor league team at best right now for New York. But I still moved them up because you play who's on your schedule, and they did look pretty good. Trying to look at some others, it was really I told you the Texans are now in my top 10, and I don't think I'm going to put the Bills ahead of them. So Houston looks like they will stay there. I'm buying in on CJ Stroud and what he has been able to do. While the victory with Cincinnati was a big help as far as moving them up, it really wasn't just this week that locked them into that place. But What about some of those teams? Is there a team right now that you are just unsure about? Like, I to me, it's the entire middle of the
Oh yeah.
standings. Like I could do the top 10 and the bottom 10 pretty quick. It's that middle 12. Sometimes that fluctuates too.
And
But it's that middle group where I just throw out my arms and go, I don't know.
yeah, and you say it 100% because in that middle group, you include teams like Indianapolis with Gardner Minshew, Jonathan Taylor. For me, and it's just because I've had to write about them. It has to be the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know where from week to week where they're going to be. I mean, I kept them at 18 this week, even though they've got 2 wins on their belt. I wrote about Josh Jacobs this week, finally breaking the curse of the 100 game, finally getting over 100 yards gained rushing since last year. That one just, you never know who and what you're going to get out of them, but the fire out of them, even seeing Adams a little bit more vocal in the role there, I think they're trending up, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah. To me, you go near the top of the rankings, it's still Miami for me. I mean, they had the bye week, so obviously not a lot has changed there, but we've talked about who have they beat, and it's the level of competition they get wins in or is not as high as when they actually face a good team and they come away with a loss. So I still have them in my top 10. But it's just because I'm just really unsure where I want to go. Again, I don't think Buffalo is going to move into either of our top 5. So go ahead and give a preview of who your top 5 teams are. That'll help solidify our rankings tomorrow.
So, you said it just a minute ago. It was hard to do. I keep San Francisco out of the top. I leave them right where they were at last week at 7, but I keep Philadelphia at number 1. They were on the bye. I moved Detroit up to number 2. I take Baltimore out of number 2. They stumbled a little bit yesterday. I keep Kansas City 3rd, and then move Baltimore to 4, and Miami. I keep Miami in the top 5 with Dallas just sitting on the outside.
For me, I moved Philadelphia back up to number 1. Maybe I'm the jinx. I had Baltimore as my number 1 team, and they come away with the loss. So I moved the Eagles 1. I'll put the Chiefs 2. What a fantastic game between them. We're going to get on Monday night. We'll talk about the schedule here shortly. But both coming off a bye there. I moved the Lions up to 3, so I'm not fully opposed to you having them second either. I moved the 49ers all the way up to 4th, and I keep Baltimore in the top 5. It was a close divisional matchup with Cleveland. They come out on the losing side there. I still think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Again, you can find all of our power rankings along with the other 6 that help us out doing those tomorrow around noonish Pacific time. And we will see where those go. Again, mine are not fully solidified yet as I wait to see what the heck is going to happen with this Bills-Broncos game. What a weird matchup that I'm kind of keeping an eye on to our left. Let's look at week 11 real quick before we get into the local stuff and get into our predictions. Again, Thursday night football, the Cincinnati Bengals at your Baltimore Ravens. That one is going to be a lot of fun. We've already talked about it. But let's look through the morning slate of games. I'm just going to run them down, and I want you to give me the top 2 that you are most looking forward to from the 10 a.m. slot of games. So you have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. You have the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions, Chargers at the Packers, Raiders at the Dolphins, Giants at the Commanders, Cowboys at the Panthers. How do they get the Giants and the Panthers back to back? The Titans and the Jaguars, and the Cardinals and the Texans. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. The old Octobox on Game Pass. So who you got? What are your top 2 games?
For me, it's a no-brainer with the first one, and it has to be the AFC North. As we have proved it over the last few weeks, even in our power rankings, all 4 teams have been up in the top. This one is that must game watch here as Cleveland number 1 defense, and they've proved it. it's going to be interesting to see how that defense slows down Najee Harris and the run game of Pittsburgh. The other team that is the game that is intriguing a bit, and it's just because Miami's coming off of bye week, and Vegas has been playing hot, so it's going to be crazy to see what the rookie Aiden O'Connell does with the Raiders, and can he connect with Adams and keep that game close?
Yeah, Steelers, I guess, are another team I should have brought up, about a team I'm completely on the fence of. Where do you have them in your rankings right now?
So
I have them in my spot. I'm locked in, but I just don't. I'm very curious when the 7 of you send me your stuff to where they line up with me.
So I currently have, and the way this game is going, I think I'm going to stay locked in with where I have sent my picks. But I have Pittsburgh number 13, lucky number 13. And I think there's still that Pickens to Pickett. It still hasn't. I want to see that matchup happen a lot more, but Najee Harris looked really, really good running the ball the other day.
Jaylen Warren, and that's why I'm curious if I'm too low on the Steelers. But I have them at 14 right now. Again, the Bills and the Broncos are not in my rankings as we speak. But the way the Bills are playing, I might drop the Bills below the Steelers and keep them at 14. But it was just too tough for me to move the Steelers ahead of what the Vikings are doing, what the Seahawks are doing. Maybe I'm still being too bullish on the Jaguars. I have them above Pittsburgh right now, but it was really tough to get them higher than that.
I have them. I have Jacksonville one spot ahead of Pittsburgh. But you've said it, and we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. You got your bottom tier that we've figured out. We know who is there, and right now you've got your top 5, 6. That's pretty easy. It's that darn middle group. It is hard to see, especially what is happening with these guys.
Just for fun, where do you have my New York Jets? I was the lowest on them last week, and I think all of you are going to make them plummet.
I didn't plummet it as near as far. I dropped them 3 and moved them to number 19.
All right. I'm still below you. Out of the top 20 for me.
I still like their defense. I love what you guys
me
have
too.
for defense.
But 3 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. And all of them were on one-play drives. How wild is that?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think Steelers and Browns are absolutely a must-watch game. Raiders and Dolphins also, I think, is the only really one that you have to watch. Cardinals and Texans now with Kyler Murray there will be fun. But we will see. Your afternoon games, the Buccaneers, just give me one here because there's only 3 of them. Buccaneers and 49ers, Seahawks and Rams, and the Jets and the Bills.
And
I said give me one because there's really only one. It's the Buccaneers, 49ers, right?
Yeah, I think that's the game. I said it a few minutes ago. I think Baker could, as much as I'm probably going to take San Francisco,
No. You are in Tampa Bay. You took Tampa Bay. We locked it in last hour. You took the Buccaneers. But I'm with you. Buccaneers, 49ers is the game to watch. I obviously will have rooting interest with the Jets, Bills. We will see how that goes. Sunday Night Football is an interesting one, but one that I probably will only be kind of keeping an eye on while we bowl and not being locked in like I was last week. Vikings at the Broncos. If Denver wins this game, they can make it interesting. And then, of course, Monday Night Football, Eagles and Chiefs. So don't forget, you will get all of our NFL picks. We both pick Baltimore on Thursday night. But Thursday morning, Hagan will post our NFL picks. And if he doesn't put Tampa Bay in his picks, he's a chicken. And I call fraud.
I think that's a possible upset, but it's hard to go against the 49ers at home. But anything happens, 3-game lose streak. Yeah.
Let's get into your football pick'ems as far as college and high school go. We're out. This is the last games for Idaho. So then it's all Clark or Washington based for a couple of weeks, and then we don't even have 10 games in a couple of weeks because we'll just do all the championship games.
Mm-hmm.
I went 12-8 overall, 6-4 in both high school and college. You went 10-10 overall, 5-5 in high school and 5-5 in college. And I'm just going to call you out right now, sir, as I have an 8-game lead. The first thing you messaged me today was, we have 10 games different. I have to make a comeback. I have a feeling that you saw my picks and went,
I did not.
this one is close, but because Randy went this way, I'm going opposite.
Nope, I did not even look at your picks because I was trying to type them into the database for the.
Actually, some of them
picture
you
that
haven't
goes
even
up.
typed in yet. So some of them I don't even know who you picked.
Well, that means I probably better pull up my file because I had them. I typed them in the file.
Right.
So,
all right, let's get into all of the Idaho State championship games first. These are difficult for us to pick because we only really watch the Northern Idaho teams. We'll see how things go. But Coeur d'Alene, who won 7-6 against Eagle, yes, 7-6, will take on Highland, who took out Meridian 20-14. This game is on Saturday at 1 p.m. at Holt Arena. Highland looking for their first title since 2017. Coeur d'Alene looking for their first title since 2013. Talking to Brian Danner this weekend, he said that the Vikings have the best defense he has seen ever calling high school football. So I'm taking the Vikings.
yeah, I messed up and did not take them last week as they were playing Eagle, but give credit to Coeur d'Alene as shutting down Eagle in that one. I am going to take Coeur d'Alene winning this one too.
4A state championship, your top seed Hillcrest against the second seed Bishop Kelly. Hillcrest defeated Skyline 35-31. Bishop Kelly defeated Pocatello 28-18. Hillcrest, with that win over Skyline, did knock out the 3-time defending state champs in Skyline, which kind of messed up my pick. Bishop Kelly was the runner-up last year. Both teams are undefeated, but Bishop Kelly still averaging 43 points per game. I'm going to take the mini upset. Give me Bishop Kelly.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Knights with this one from Hillcrest. Just with you saying, I mean, both of these teams are still undefeated. Am I hearing audio in my ear? They have scored over 430 points so far this season, does Hillcrest, and while only giving up 151 points. I'm going to take a chance with them.
Yeah, should be a good one. 3A state championship. Your top seed, Sugar Salem, against the 3 seed Teton. That one, or excuse me, before Hillcrest and Bishop Kelly, Friday at 7 p.m. at Boise State. That's kind of cool. But Sugar Salem and Teton is Saturday at 4 p.m. at Holt Arena. Sugar Salem took out Weir 25-7. Teton made us both losers last week and beat Homedale 49-42. Sugar Salem looking for their 4th title in the last 5 years. Both teams are from the Mountain Rivers Conference, so we have a lot of head-to-head matchups between them. This year, Sugar Salem won 41-14, and in fact, Sugar Salem has won the last 12. So give me Sugar Salem.
I'm taking Sugar Salem too. The only thing is they've held all of their opponents totally out of their 12 games they've played. I think it was 12 to just 96 points. So holding each team to an average of 8 points, unbelievable.
Zach just sent me a message saying that the Broncos really want to make him redo his rankings. So Broncos right now with a 21-15 lead, scored a touchdown and botched the extra point. 2A state championship, number 1 Declo against number 3 Westside. This one is at Friday night at 8:15 p.m. at Holt Arena. That's a late start. Declo defeated Melba 38-16. Westside took care of North Fremont 22-8, again giving us a loss last week. How about Westside winning 3 of the last 4 titles? The one that they did not win was a loss to Bear Lake in the semis in overtime last year. Westside took care of Declo in the quarterfinals last year, 31-10, but Declo did get the win this year, 27-26. give me West Side just for the postseason experience.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other direction just because Declo ended up knocking off Westside earlier in the year. And they put, I think, we don't follow these guys enough. They have to be playing with a chip on their shoulder after losing last year in the quarterfinals. So give me Declo.
How about Class 1A Division 1 state championship? The top seed Oakley against the 2 seed Butte County. Butte County took care of Logos 60-26. That was our only pick different in high school, and I got that on you. And Oakley dominated Grace 50-20. Listen, Oakley has won the last 3 state titles. They are the Kendrick of Division 1, which will be really fun when Kendrick goes up to that level next year. But give me Oakley.
So here's the funny part about this is in there, Oakley's only loss comes to Kendrick. Butte County's only loss comes to Kendrick. So both of those teams not have had to play against a state champion that is unbelievable.
From a lower level.
From a lower level, yeah. Butte County has scored at least 40 points in all of their other games except the one game to Kendrick. Give me Butte County to upset Oakley this year and take the state title.
There you go. Class 1A Division 2. The last time we'll have this title, along with the Division 1, because we're going to go to 1A and 2A and up to 6A. Things are going to get shift around next year. But it's Kendrick versus Camas County. This one's a Thursday night game at the Kibbe Dome. If we didn't bowl, I would want to go up and watch this one. But Kendrick took care of Hagerman 88-20. Camas County dominated Rockland 67-18. It felt like we were just destined for this game. So much so that Camas County in their 2 games beat their opponents 137-31. And that's not as good as what Kendrick did. How about 178-20 in the 2 playoff games for the Tigers, who are looking for their 3rd straight 1A D2 state championship. It would be the only time a team has been able to do that. Go for the upset, you chicken. Give me Kendrick.
No, I can't go for the upset. Give me Kendrick all day long. Zane Hobart, what he has done with this team, what the few quarters of games I have watched of Kendrick this year, unbelievable what these athletes can do in 8-man football. So give me the Tigers.
I tried to bait you into this one. Washington State tournaments now, because Asotin and Pomeroy were both eliminated in the first round. It's just Clarkson as far as local teams. So I went, you know what? That's a play. That was a great play. There was a Cook who fumbled on the first play of the game, just fumbled to himself and then ran it another 20 yards. That was great. But anyways, so it's just Clarkston. That if as far as local teams, I needed 4 games to wrap up our 10 games. So let's just pick all 4 games in the Class 2A division in the Washington State tournament. How about that? Let's start with your number 8 seed Clarkston Bantams taking on top seeded Tumwater. Clarkston took care of Woodland 44-6. Tumwater took care of Port Angeles 70-12. Give credit to the Bantams. They've won 6 straight games, and they've outscored their last 2 opponents, including a playoff team, 100-12. But Tumwater has scored 49 or more points in 10 of their 11 games. The team looks really good, just from what I was looking up. Would love to take the Bantams and hope for you guys to move one step closer, but it's Tumwater for me.
You know, I have to look at the same thing you were saying. I want to 100% say Clarkston, and I am going to go Clarkston. I think this is going to be a good game. If the defense can keep playing the way they have played since that West Valley loss, where it's like they forgot to show up on the bus, it has been all Bantams over the last 6 games, especially a tough Rogers team who took steps up this year. Unbelievable group of guys there with that team. And so they were able to hold things, and they were able to shut down Elijah Anderson this last week at Woodland, who was their player of the conference over there. So give me Clarkson. It's going to be close. And I got to see this team win it.
Out number 6, Highland at number 3, Enumclaw. that how you say that?
Mhm.
There's some weird names in the state of Washington. Highland took care of WF West 34-6. Enumclaw took care of Othello 49-12. Enumclaw has pitched 5 shutouts in their 11 games this year. Give credit to Highland too; they've won 9 straight games. Give me the defense in Enumclaw.
And this one is I think the toughest one out of all of them to pick with this one. I'm going to do another different one with you on this one, sir. I am going to take Highland. Highland has outscored their opponents 573-96. Their only loss comes from a 4A team, Kennedy Catholic. And so Enumclaw has allowed 50.
I was getting into that music.
Do you want to know what that alarm is? That's my alarm to say, hey, it's time for you to take your medicine, your nightly medicine. I'm old. Go ahead and say it. I'm old. It's a reminder for me to take my medicine.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Mm-hmm.
To an old thing on my button.
So anyway, Highland, I'm taking. Yes, thanks, Haley. Old people problems. It's tough getting old. But I'm going to take Highland because that one loss to a bigger school. This one's the interesting game of being a 3-6 seed.
I want to hit another old button. Is that from VeggieTales? Is that I was figuring that was from SpongeBob, but I don't know. I was looking for an old thing, but I'm so afraid to hit on new buttons on this website because some of them are not appropriate. So I'll just move on. Let's move on to the 7th seed. Help me. Orting? What a dumb name. Against Anacortes, the 2 seed. Orting took out Washougal 30-10.
Washougal,
yeah. Washington. Come on, Washington. Really?
That they're all tribal names. Most of them have.
I get it, but they're so hard to say. Anacortes took care of Rogers 53-12. Anacortes is still not giving up more than 13 points in a game. Give me Anacortes.
Orting has scored more points this season than Anacortes. Orting scoring 426 points to Anacortes 320. Anacortes averaging 32 points a game, while Orting is averaging 38. The numbers say take Orting. I can't do it. Give me Anacortes.
By the way, my button says SpongeBob on my thing, but maybe it's just wrong. Number 5, Linden takes on number 4, North Kitsap. Linden took care of Bremerton 41-7. North Kitsap shut out Ephrata 49-0. North Kitsap, their only loss was the Tumwater, so give me North Kitsap.
Yeah, same thing applies with this one. Linden's only loss comes from Anacortes, who's also in the same district, and that was a low-scoring 15-8 matchup. And then they also ended up losing to Ferndale, who is a 3A team. North Kitsap right now averaging 39 points a game. Give me North Kitsap.
All right, so those are our high school picks. Let's move on to college. And again, because we have a Monday night show, we can do a Tuesday night football game. As Buffalo just tied it up, an extra point would give the Bills the lead and save Zach's power rankings, apparently. On Tuesday, Western Michigan, who's 4-6, is at Northern Illinois, who's 4-6. Aren't you so glad we're doing a Tuesday night game on our pick'ems? Western Michigan has won 2 straight. Northern Illinois, has lost 2 straight. Give me Northern Illinois.
I'm going with the home team on a Tuesday night. Not sure about this one, so it'll be interesting. I took the favorite. Give me Northern Illinois.
And Buffalo has taken the lead with 1:55 to go. No good Wednesday game, so let's move to Thursday. Not that this is much better. Boston College is 6-4. Pittsburgh is 2-8. 4 p.m. on a Thursday on ESPN. However, Pittsburgh is the favorite.
I couldn't figure that out.
I'm taking Boston College. I can't do it.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. Why Pittsburgh at 2-8 is home, is a 2.5 point favorite. So
Got me.
Yeah. Give me Boston College.
Friday night football. Colorado, who's 4-6, at Washington State, who's 4-6. Whoever loses, no bowl games for them. Whoever wins, well, most likely no bowl game for them because they still have to win the next week. Washington State would have to beat Washington, Colorado. I don't even know who they play, but they're not going to win. WSU's a 4.5-point favorite. This is at 7:30 p.m. on a Friday. What a dreck these two have become. Give me Colorado.
Yeah, for me, this one's a tough one. I still don't know if I'm going to go to this game, not knowing if I am going to Tumwater yet. But WSU, this is the last home game of the season before everything gets shook up with Pac-12. Yes, I know that WSU has lost now 6 in a row.
Yep.
Snap it at home. Give me Wazoo.
Does Dicker get fired?
Does he or has he? That's the question.
Does he? He is not officially at the moment. Maybe they've been hiding it.
I think they let him go at the end of after the Husky game.
All right, let's get into the Saturday competitions, and let's look at number 11, Louisville, who's 9-1. They're at Miami, who's 6-4. This is 9 a.m. on ABC. And wait to see if Eric is around since we brought up the Miami Hurricanes. No? Bueller? Okay. Louisville, a 1-point favorite. Miami's lost back-to-back games after winning a couple games in overtime. I think they've been building up for this one game. Give me the Hurricanes with the upset.
I just don't understand, but I think you're taking it because of Eric. So give me Louisville. I need a big win. This one, I did see that you took Miami, and I was shocked. So I'm going to take Louisville, home of Lamar Jackson.
It didn't work out well for him last week. Number 18, Utah is 7-3. They're at number 21, Arizona. They are also 7-3. How about an 11:30 a.m. Fox kickoff time? Not what Arizona usually plays. They usually play at 11:30 at night. But Arizona, 1.5-point favorite because of their quarterback, Noah Fafita, who has 1,735 yards, 16 touchdowns, just 4 picks. Give me the Wildcats here.
It is not an evening game. I changed it a couple of weeks ago because it was an evening game. It is a morning game. Give me Utah.
Number 2, Georgia's 10-0. They're at number 13, Tennessee, who's 7-3. It's a 12:30 p.m. kickoff time on CBS. This is a game I should have realized was on the schedule when I picked Tennessee last week to beat Missouri. Tennessee obviously was looking ahead to Georgia. They got beat down by Missouri 36-7. They're not going to compete with the Bulldogs. Give me Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia all day long. If I go against them and take the Vols in this one, I'd really hear from it.
Number 25, Kansas State, 7-3. They're at number 16, Kansas, who's 7-3. It's a 4 p.m. kick on FS1. Kansas State, a 7-point favorite. I don't know much about either team, so give me Kansas State.
I'm going to take the visitors just because it's odd that they're a 7-point favorite in Kansas, who is ranked higher right now at 16. Don't like the home team. Give me KSU.
How about number 5, Washington? They're 10-0. They're at number 12, Oregon State, who's 8-2. 4:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Oregon State's actually a 1-point favorite. And something I was surprised by, I keep picking against Washington because, again, this is the Pac-12, and they do not allow teams to make the playoffs. Washington has not won a game by more than 1 score. More than what they've done it one time in the last 6 weeks. So I've said that completely horrible, but just one time in the last 6 games for Washington, they won by more than 1 score, keeping things close, dancing with the devil, if you will. They're running out of time. I'm trying again. Give me Oregon State.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've taken Washington more this year than I have in a long time. They're for
No.
real. Michael Penix Jr. is the real deal with this one. Give me Washington to take and beat the Beavers.
And even with all these free games I keep giving you, I have an 8-game lead.
I know.
Let's move on to the Big Sky and get a couple of games here. Number 10, Sacramento State is 7-3. They're at UC Davis, who is 6-4. There's a 2 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. Give me Sacramento State.
Yeah, I don't know much about Sacramento State, but I'm going to take them on the road.
And then finally, the number 4 team, Montana State, who's 8-2, at the number 3 team, Montana, who's 9-1, 11 a.m. on Saturday on ESPN Plus. I liked what I saw from Montana more than I saw from Montana State when they played Idaho. So give me Montana.
Montana State has won 5 of the last 6 matchups, and the Bobcats outscored the Grizz by 34 last year. I think it reigns true again this year. Give me the Bobcats.
All right, what do you got for the Blitz this week?
This week from Bermuda, Columbia-born Camila Villegas comes away with a big 24 under win on the tour. That's his first win since 2014, and the loss of his daughter in 2020. So quite an emotional win with that one. So congratulations to Camilo. Next tournament is the RSM Classic that happens at Sea Island Resorts this weekend at both the Seaside and Plantation courses in the St. Simons Island in Georgia.
Got some MMA news too?
Yeah, buddy and friend of the show, Jared Fisher is fighting. He did not fight 2 weeks ago here at the one here in the Valley. He is fighting up in Spokane this weekend at the Conquest of the Cage, and he is taking on Kimo Lewis. So good luck to our buddy Jared Fisher.
My stream just reset. I had to reset it. 35 seconds left is what I got on the clock for the Denver Broncos, who are in Buffalo territory. Can they pull the upset, sir?
I if I want to keep things good and only miss 4 games this week, I sure hope Buffalo can
hold
off Russell Wilson.
My picks are garbage, but if Buffalo holds on, I'll finish 7-7. So I guess. That's an easy flag. Easy flag. Lots of laundry. Somebody's been watching Tom Grossi. Tom Grossi has a laundry counter, and that's been a lot of fun. That's going to end that game most likely. Real quick, anybody out there that wants to vote on our sports-related draft, last chance to do so. Best athlete to serve in the armed forces. My team was Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, and Ty Cobb. Robert's team was Pat Tillman, Jackie Robinson, and Willie Mays. Still looking for a vote on our sports-related draft. And you guys missed the fun rant we had about an hour ago on it. But let us know who you think wins in the comments below. Don't forget, we will be back on next Monday. See, I told you. Please explain how Robert wins, Chris. Please. I would love to hear this explanation because you're wrong. But we will be back on. You know who's... What?
Wow. I win 2-0.
That hurts. That really... You don't know who Joe DiMaggio is? You don't know who Ted Williams is? I can understand not knowing who Ty Cobb is because, again, he came from Robert's time. But that... Interesting. But I'm very curious why Chris will pick it because you guys are very, very, very incorrect.
Well,
as I was saying...
I was going to say, let's give him a minute and
I will
see if he types it out. Your college game to watch, sir. Which one are you looking forward to?
Great grandpa, most likely. Let's be honest. He was in the 1910s.
It's Cobb, not Cobb.
You don't get these picks because these people don't even know who people are. Can you name what position Pat Tillman even played? Or did you just hear it in the news? I told you. I went on my rant and you wondered why I was so mad because this exact situation was going to happen. You pick some new person that wasn't even a good football player that has a tragic story. I'm done with these people. What do you got for your college game? I don't care.
I think for me, it's got to be it's an SEC matchup. Give me the Bulldogs over the Vols. I think that's one you have to watch this weekend.
Wow, Chris was right. It was a safety, but
he was a safety.
Lineman. You guys don't even know. My head hurts. I can't.
This game has went the longest 2 minutes ever.
That's
at the
usually
end of this
how they
game.
go.
This
Washington, Oregon State to me is the college game of the week.
And it's coming down to this could be the 6th game
with the last second goal.
With the last second field goal.
You love to see that.
Add to more history.
What is your NFL game of the week? Are you going Homer?
I have to. I mean, Thursday night is a great setup. It's an AFC North match. All of the AFC North plays against each other. It's divisional matchup week. It's going to be crazy. And how did you plan it that we both bowl on the same pair? All 4 teams. Was that a setup that way?
Yes, it's always set up that way. It's been the way since I've started really aligning our lane assignments over 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Oops.
There's a flag, though.
Oh, even better. That is just... The relationship is in trouble here. Oh, it's on the defense.
12 men.
See, this is why a 12th man is so horrible for football, Seahawk fans.
1, 2,
kind of cost the Bills the game.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep.
That is horrible. How do you do that? Somebody's getting fired. Game of the week will be the Eagles and Chiefs, and that is a good segue for me to let you guys know that next week, once again, we are a Monday night show. However, we will not interfere with the Eagles-Chiefs game. Come right here and watch us. After that game, we'll do another smaller version of the show. I have Lewis and basketball over the next 2 weeks as Denver comes away with the win. Kennedy is crying. Harry just threw something through his TV. I will go check on them. We'll be back on Monday. Don't forget, Power Rankings will be out tomorrow. Chris will be a part of that with us. Our high school picks will be out tomorrow as well because we have a Tuesday night college game, part of that. And then our NFL picks on Thursday. But don't forget, Monday night next week, right after Monday Night Football. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, even though Haley and Chris, you and I need to have an intervention and a lesson. I need to teach you who these people are because that was bad. But thank you guys so much for hanging out. Love you anyways. That's Robert. I'm Randy. Until Monday. Monday. It's the R&R Sports Report, and we are